Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to see you here today. We are going to get started in just a minute. Special welcome to folks who have not joined us before. We're so glad that you're here. And since there are a good number of us, we're not going to be doing a round of introductions by video today, but while we're waiting to get started, if you want, we'd love it if you'd put your name, your pronouns if you want to share them, your organizational affiliation if you have one, and maybe your favorite fall food in the chat. And we'll get started in just another minute. We'll start in just about 30 seconds here. So if you don't mind, we'd love it if you could put your name and organizational affiliation in the chat and your pronouns if you want to share them. And we'd also love it if you want to share your favorite fall food. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. I'm sure some other folks will be joining us as we move along. So this is the quarterly Rhody Feeding Rhody Alliance meeting. And again, thank you so much. We're excited to have you here and especially want to welcome folks who have not come to one of these quarterly meetings before. You can advance the slide, Rachel. So at today's meeting, we are going to hear end of season updates from our core partners who've been very busy all season. We're going to learn about relevant food policy progress. And we're also going to have an opportunity to reflect on impacts to date and share our ideas for 2025 together. So there'll be plenty of time to chat. As we're starting out here, I want to take a moment today to introduce you to another Rhode Island Food Policy Council staff member, Rachel Newman Green. Rachel is the program director of our Food Access and Nutrition Security program, and she's been with the Rhode Island Food Policy Council for a little over a year now. And she is stepping up now to support the Rhody Feeding Rhody Alliance, and we're so excited to have her do that. So Rachel, would you mind coming off mute and just doing a brief introduction of yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. A lot of familiar faces, but some new ones too. So it's really great to be here. As Nessa said, I'm Rachel, and I'm the program director for Food Access and Nutrition Security. So I'm really happy to be stepping into this role because I think that the work of the Rhody Feeding Rhody Alliance really fits neatly with the goals that we have around increasing food access and nutrition security around the state. It's a great cross pollination opportunity between the other work we're doing. So it's happy to be here. Great to see you all.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So you all will be hearing more from Rachel later. But for now, we're going to be turning to our core partners. As I mentioned, it's been a very busy season for them, and we're really excited to hear all of their updates. While you're listening to them, I would just ask you to keep track of any questions that arise in your minds. We're going to go through the presentations, but we will have time for conversation afterward. So keep track of those questions, and I am going to go ahead right now and turn it over to Shay and Fred from the Commercial Fisheries Center of Rhode Island, and I think they may be supported by Kate Massery from Eating with the Ecosystem.
Thank you, Nessa. Good afternoon, everyone. So the seafood donation program has been continuing successfully throughout the year. We've even been expanding in terms of the number of partnering community-based organizations or the food distribution sites, as well as the number of fishing and seafood business partners involved that have been providing the product. So far in 2024, we have worked with a total of 15 seafood industry partners, 9 community-based organizations and food distribution sites. Additionally, a total of 175,000 pounds of seafood has been distributed, and over $185,000 has been directed to the industry. Recently, we've also partnered with Southside Community Land Trust, who you'll hear from later today, but we've helped them coordinate several seafood orders that they've been able to incorporate into their food distribution efforts, which has been really exciting. Looking ahead, we're excited to share that we have been awarded a grant to really help us jumpstart our efforts and implement a well-rounded program to connect local seafood products to Rhode Island K through 12 schools. So this work is in collaboration with Tony's Seafood, Chartwell's, Farm Fresh, and also Eating with the Ecosystem. So with the support, we'll be planning some additional sampling and menuing events of monkfish sliders, as well as some other seafood products for 2025 and 2026. So that's all we have for updates on our end. Pass it back to Nessa, or is it going to Farm Fresh? I'm not certain.
Thank you so much, Shay. Those are amazing updates, and just incredible to think about all of the families and individuals that have received this seafood through your programs. And congratulations on the grant that you just mentioned. I don't think I even knew about that. So
Thank
that's
you.
wonderful to
Very
hear.
recent.
Yeah. And yes, now we're going to pass it over to Hope's Harvest of Farm Fresh Rhode Island for their update.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Shannon. I am the Assistant Director at Hope's Harvest, so I can get started and share about our gleaning updates. So this year, in 2024 so far, we've gleaned over 200,000 pounds of produce. And that is about 30,000 pounds more of purely donated food this season since last season, so that's really good. And we also were able to get over 6,000 pounds of food just from the Hope Street Market, which was a new way for us to get produce this year. So exciting new avenues there. We contracted with farmers to grow specifically for hunger relief and ended up finishing our payout of $130,000 to those farmers. And with the extension of LFPA, we're hoping to be able to continue contracting with farmers next year as well. We have served 63 different hunger relief agencies so far this year and worked with 50 different farmers and producers to get donations from them. So that's great. That's about 6 more farmers than last year as well. So showing some growth there, which is always good to keep the program growing. And then just wanted to also feature, we've started working with Women and Infant Centering Pregnancy Program. So the photo above there is showing their Centering Pregnancy Program staff with a donated fridge from Feast and Fettle, so that we can get them fresh produce to hand out to their families that are a part of that program. So that was a fun new avenue for donations this year too. So those are our gleaning program updates. I can pass it over to Allie for some other program updates.
Great. Yeah. So our Farm to Food Pantry program, which is funded through LFPA this year, runs from June through December. So this is data as of last week. So far, 48 agencies have purchased from 51 different local food producers. And the agencies have spent over $140,000 on 89 unique local food items. 37% of those items are eggs, milk, and tomatoes, which are the top 3 items that have been purchased. And those have ranked top 3 for quite a few months now, that don't typically get donated. So agencies are loving to have access to those goods. And then with the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, so far we have delivered over 700 produce boxes to 21 different agencies through bulk delivery, which was our method that we did last year. And then this year we expanded doing home delivery. So we have been doing last mile as of this year to 80 different seniors that are participating in the program. We'll continue that through the end of this year. So over $26,000 of local produce, herbs, and honey have been purchased. To help us with this program, we've also sub-awarded $10,000 to West Bay Farm and Oski cumulatively. So they've just finished up their contracts, which is great. And then we've also started to pilot some pop-up farmers markets at different senior housing sites that are under the property advisory group. So we did 5 different pop-ups and had between 3 to 5 different vendors go to those housing locations and had seniors sign up for the program on site and then got to spend down those electronic benefit cards there. So able to meet the farmers and the seniors where they're at and able to either give them the option of going to a traditional farmers market, providing a farmers market to sites that don't have access to a farmers market because of seasonality or lack of transportation, or providing seniors the option to have a produce box delivered to their home. So excited to continue this work through the end of the year. And then the winter will really start narrowing down how 2025 will look.
Amazing updates, Shannon and Allie. It's great to see how many different options people have to access this food. I remember when the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program was just, coupons at the farmers market. So it's really gotten so much diversified from there. And if folks were wondering what the letters LFPA stand for, we will be getting more into that when we have our policy update a little while later. So remember to jot down those questions, and that's certainly one that we'll be answering later. And now I'm so pleased that Kakina Castro is here from Southside Community Land Trust to provide their update on how things have been going this season.
Hi, everyone. Good to be here. We are actually in our final week of aggregation, week 20. Thus far, we have purchased $145,000 worth of produce and some other items to families in need. That is money that has gone directly into the farmers in our network's pockets. New items that we were really excited about to procure for families is peaches, pears, shiitake mushrooms, tea from sanctuary herbs, honey, and fish. We partnered with Omni Development, who is responsible for building the affordable housing that's 1 block away from us. And we're always looking for ways to partner and strengthen relationships with our immediate community. So they built the Joseph Caffey Apartments and Jordan Caffey Townhouses. We worked with a residence coordinator to find 17 families to receive produce for distributions, which they're receiving their last one this Wednesday. Earlier in the year, in the springtime, I believe, I connected with Shay and we had some conversations about how we might be able to partner and provide fish to some of our families. And we couldn't really sort it out in the spring. It gets really complicated with seafood and food safety all surrounding fish. So we weren't able to make it happen until this partnership with the apartments and townhouses right here, because we're able to distribute the fish directly from Southside's hub. And we're already licensed by the state to do so. So I reconnected with Shay and said, hey, we do have an opportunity to purchase fish for our program, which was really exciting. People have been really happy to receive not only the produce, but the fish. And we also looped in Eating with the Ecosystem to provide educational materials, so culinary profiles for the fish, and also some recipes that Amelia was able to actually translate the profiles in Spanish. And then we've also done a total of 10 produce giveaways thus far this year. And actually we'll stop at the 10 produce giveaways. There won't be any more of those for the season.
Thank you so much for the update, Kakina. That's amazing. It's wonderful to hear about all of the new items that are being distributed. And Allie, I have to check in with you to see if we have somebody from DEM on the call yet for the policy update.
No one has logged in yet, but was looking for the link. So I just sent the link like 30 seconds ago. It might take another minute for them to log in.
Okay. Well, why don't I'm sure there are other folks who also have, information about what's going on the policy front, but why don't you advance the slide and I'll just kind of start us off with a policy update. First with the federal information that I have and then state legislation. And I think I saw Christina Cabrera join us. So Christina's also has a lot of information about the federal farm bill and associated. So Christina, I welcome you to help out with anything you think I miss on the federal farm bill side. So you did hear a couple of mentions of the LFPA program. That's the Local Food Procurement Agreement Program, which is federal funding that has been provided to the states specifically for this purpose of buying local food and distributing it. And they have a particular focus on purchasing food from farmers who've been undercapitalized, and also distributing food in ways that it isn't normally distributed. So I think that there's been a lot of interest in this program at the national level, and certainly it's been really helpful to a lot of farmers and fishers and seafood companies here at the state level. Thanks for putting that in the chat, Allie. So there was a move. Oh, here comes Ken. Good. He'll be able to start us off. But I will say, as we're waiting for Ken to come in and get off mute, that there was a move recently to provide some additional funding to the LFPA program, and that comes to DEM and then is distributed out through these core partners. So that's been a big relief in some ways and also a challenge in other ways. So Ken, are you able to join us now?
I am. Sorry about that.
Nope, it's actually perfect any We just got through our wonderful core partner updates, and we're about to launch into some updates on federal farm bill and any other federal updates you have for us, and then any state updates that you want to provide.
They're great. Federally, there's a lot to be determined, and particularly around the farm bill. We're all watching and waiting to see what happens there. I've heard that one of the priorities is to get appropriations out the door. There have been a lot of disasters, agriculture-related disasters this year, and so the appropriations process, which helps farmers out when they face issues, weather-related or whatnot, will be one way of addressing those issues. So even if a farm bill doesn't happen, I'm told that the priority is to get the appropriations process to work to help out with some of the many disasters that farmers have faced this year. We still don't know who also will be the Secretary of Agriculture. I was just checking online. No one has been selected yet. So two big things we're waiting to see what happened, which has a lot to do with federal policy. Also federally, one of the things that DEM certainly has expressed his support for, and Senator Reed just signed on to, is a Save Our Small Farms Act called SOS, which has to do with something which what I just talked about. There's really not much to help out small farmers, in particular in the event of a disaster. Typically money flows through the federal government. The state doesn't have those resources. The federal government has been in recent years relying upon crop insurance as a way of meeting the financial needs of farmers in case of a disaster rather than ad hoc appropriations process. One of the things that has been revealed through the process through the disasters that farmers have faced this year is that crop insurance options don't work well. The whole process needs to be reformed. This particular bill, the SOS, Save Our Small Farms Act, would reform crop insurance for small farmers in particular. There's a sign-on process of like 20 or 30 senators, I think, have signed on to it so far, including ours. And we're following that and supporting that at DEM. So that's pretty much it federally. State-wise, there's several conversations that are happening. Certainly DEM will do its best to support the priorities of the Food Policy Council, the four that have been identified. We're talking internally about that at the moment. There are other things that are kicking around. We're happy that the green bond passed a couple of weeks ago, which provides $5 million more for farmland preservation in the state, which is fantastic. Another $5 million for forestry management. There are conversations happening about some bills that did not pass last year. One is to make it a little bit easier for small farmers in the state to work their way through the wetlands process. There's a pretty high definition of a farmer there, which is leftover from the original legislation in the early 1980s. As a farmer is identified as someone that grosses $10,000 per year for 4 years in a row. That leaves out the many, many small farmers in the state. And as you probably know, Rhode Island has the highest percentage of new and beginning farmers in the country based upon the last census of agriculture. So farm bureaus and DEM are talking about a way to make it easier for small farmers in the state to work their way through the wetlands process. That's an active conversation. There are talks about trying to take some of the money that flows into DEM from permit and registrations fee. The Division of Agriculture collects about $4 million per year in permit and registration fees. That money all goes into the general fund. There's been discussion, and there was a bill last year about taking some or all that money, turning it around to support local agriculture and food system. DEM was supportive of that. It was part of our initial budget proposal. It didn't pass in the end, but I know that's something that Senator Palmer has been leading the charge on, is interested in submitting again as a legislative proposal. Ultimately, I think, there's not a lot of state money that goes into supporting the local food system. There's some, and it has been growing in recent years, but we are largely reliant upon the federal government. And so we would certainly want to see as many state resources as possible go to that. There's been some talk with Senator Linda Uchifusa about a study commission to look at setting a goal for local food, our ability to produce food in the state, setting a goal like 30 by 30 or 50 by 50, which is already out there. Those are goals where 30% of the food would be produced locally by the year 2030 or 50% by the year 2050. They may be aspirational to some extent, but we believe that a goal is important. DEM would like to support a goal like that. What it would be is still to be determined, but it would help align forces toward a particular objective. And the senator is perhaps interested in a study commission, but we'll see where she goes and colleagues with that. I think that's what I have for the moment. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks so much, Ken. I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen now so people can actually look at each other's faces. That was great. I'd like to, at this point, just open it up for questions for anyone, for Ken, or frankly, for any of our other presenters about their work in the past year and what Ken shared with us about our policy landscape. I'll just open it up. I'm going to have to change my view so I can actually see people though. And I guess, there's not so many people. You can either use your little hand raise caption, hand raise symbol there, or you can just wave or speak up. That would be great. Questions for Ken or anyone else?
I can start us off. I just actually have a question for Shannon or Allie about how how far into the season the Farmers Market Nutrition Program is running, because I recall it having kind of a deadline at the end of the summer previously, and just wondering if there's been some additional flexibility around that, and if it's still open, how folks could let others know who might benefit from it about the availability.
Sure. Yeah. So individuals who have the electronic benefit card that they can spend at the farmers markets, that expires at the end of this month. So individuals who have cards will need to utilize their benefits by the end of November. Those who wanted to go the box route will have until November 30th to sign up online to receive a produce box delivered to their home. That online form is located on the DEM's website. So it's just dem.ri.gov/SFMNP, which I can put in the chat. But there's an online sign up form on the DEM's website that will close November 30th, and we'll get the boxes out by the end of December.
And just to follow up on that, if people want to let folks know about how they can participate next season, Would that be the same website, or when does that sign up start for folks?
I don't know exactly when the 2025 season will begin, but most likely in May or June of 25. And all of that information will be on the DEM's website, and Farm Fresh will help spread the word for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions folks have for any of the presenters, or for Ken for that matter? Dr. Ritchie, yes.
I guess the question is for Ken. I ask with trepidation, but is there any feeling about how our like small, Save Our Small Farms, or funding for promoting small farm development, and all the other food supports may be affected by the incoming administration?
I guess there's fear that the amount of funding that's been available to Rhode Island over the past several years will decrease. Now, I would say that that's maybe related to the incoming administration, but it's also a fact that a lot of the funding that came to states post-pandemic had a 2 to 3 year time period on it. So that was completely, in a sense, independent of the administration change. We had been signaling for the past several months, and the Food Policy Council and others had been as well, that we are approaching a funding cliff in Rhode Island. And that's because several of the programs just, had a time frame. We've learned that some of them are going to be continued, like Nessa has mentioned that the LFPA program will actually be continued, which was a surprise announcement by USDA, not foretold in any way. We didn't know that was happening because they pulled some money out of the Commodity Credit Corporation. So even independent of the administration change, we knew that there's a funding cliff heading our way, and we had pulled together a white paper. The director of DEM had met with the governor's cabinet fairly recently in the governor's office to let them know that this food system cliff is heading our way. That affects DEM programs, it affects Department of Education programs, it affects HSS programs. So whether that's going to be more pronounced because of the change in administration, we don't know. What often happens at this time of year, and we're watching for this very closely, is that when there is a change in administration, the current administration tries to push money out the door in the last few months. So we're watching for that. We plan to take advantage of that to any extent possible. But I guess there is a collective concern about all that.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Thanks to Ken, and thanks for all of our presenters for sharing that information with us. I think we're going to open it up now for some conversation, and especially considering, as Nessa mentioned, I think at the head, that this is a 3-year project and that we are coming into the last year, into year 3 of it. And so we really need to be turning our focus to sustainability and to not just the year ahead, but what comes after the year ahead. So I wanted to first off ask our presenters to share with us some information about what your perspectives are on what went especially well over the past year and over the past couple of years, and where you think it'd be helpful for us to invest our energy into 2025. And so, yeah, I guess I would like to open it up to Shay and Fred, and to folks from Southside, and folks from Farm Fresh for some perspectives on that, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
On our end, in terms of what went well this past year, I think kind of collaboration and connection among the core partners of the Rhody Feeding Rhody Alliance was really built up. We're super excited to be able to work with Southside Community Land Trust, and we've been working with Farm Fresh for a while now, but I feel like that relationship building is just getting more strong. And same with Eating with the Ecosystem, of course. In terms of where to prioritize for next year, I would say maybe just continuing to build upon the Rhody Feeding Rhody Alliance network. The meetings have gotten really really big. I see new faces, new names, which is amazing. But just continuing building up the network, I think, is a huge benefit.
Thanks, Shay. Kina, I don't know if you have anything from Southside's perspective about what went well or where we should be investing our energy next year.
I think I definitely have to second what Shay said about our partnership, and it just really shows that the alliance is working in that sense, when you're able to connect with another organization and find ways to work together. I think as far as and what we should invest in next year to make it more sustainable is hearing from members of the alliance that are here today or have been to previous meetings about what their take is and what have they gotten out of it. I'm really interested to see about other connections that have come from it, but also hearing what people would like to see out of the alliance next year in the final year of the project.
Thank you for that.
And I think that's a really good moment to just remind folks who are on the call who may represent potential, sellers of product who haven't been engaged before, and organizations that want to distribute product that haven't been engaged before, that the Alliance is open and the core members all want to connect with you if you're falling into that category. And if you know folks who are on either end of that market chain that don't know about the Alliance yet, then we absolutely welcome you to get the word out about this opportunity to them. And after our conversation today, Allie will be sharing some ways, some specific ways that you all can help get the word out and engage further. So just wanted to note that before, I think Farm Fresh was maybe the one to go next.
Yeah. I think I agree with what everyone was just talking about, first off. I feel like I've met maybe one person who is able to be a good connection for me this year from one of the quarterly meetings, of someone who, when farmers had a bit of surplus that yes, I would take as a donation, but it would have been nice for them to be able to sell it, I was able to work with. But I think I would appreciate having some good connections there as well, just to know who to talk to when that opportunity comes up. I think also from a agency, hunger relief agency standpoint, it would maybe be nice for us to have a shared document of who's servicing which agencies, just out of curiosity, I think, but nosiness can help in that way, of just word of mouth, people wondering, hey, where'd you get that fish from? Or, where I could maybe send people when they have questions about these types of programs too. Those are my initial thoughts off the top of my head, but other than that, I think it's been great to connect with everyone and get these great updates throughout the season and year. But Allie, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, I think that because we are in a standpoint where we're very well connected with agencies and farmers, those who we already work with, I think we work with really well, as well as the DEM, who has been an amazing partner in all of the programs that we run. But when it comes to like creating new connections, we don't necessarily know who's not working with who, or how to get them to work with us. And so we have agencies who participate in multiple of our programs, but I'd like to be able to connect them with other people as well. So as Shannon was saying, having some sort of document or something like that, where it's outside of this meeting space can help contribute to that collaboration would be helpful.
Those are great ideas. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And what about our questions that we have about working towards sustainability of this effort? I mean, Ken definitely spoke to uncertainty in terms of our federal policy landscape at this point. But it does seem like there's been tremendous good work in terms of relationship building that's happened here in Rhode Island through the Alliance. And I'm wondering if folks do have some ideas for what sustainability might look like and what we might pursue together in order to build that.
And Ken, I wonder if you might expand a little bit on what you were saying before about the legislation that would help DEM save the fees that and licenses that it collects, and how that would relate to this work, if that's okay.
Sure. And in general, I mean, my philosophy about this is that the network, which is composed of relationships, is we can always influence that. Good times and bad financially, and that's really what the strength is of this alliance, and what first step is in sustainability. So, to me, that's relationship building is always priority one. The second thing is that although the ball's moved forward a lot in recent years, tremendously, and in many ways the state has contributed financially, and ALASA is a classic example, which started off as a public-private partnership, has now been fully supported by the state to the tune of $500,000 to $700,000 per year, which is great. Still, comparatively, we're not on par with the states that surround us in terms of state support for the local food system. We're getting there. It's a slow upward climb. But federal money comes and goes, and hopefully the backbone at some point in time is state funding. So to me, that's always a goal that we need to constantly aim for. The ball is definitely moving forward in the state. Some good things have happened in recent years. But there is other sources of funding that I'd like to see personally redirected towards agriculture. And one is that what I mentioned before. I mean, the Division of Agriculture collects $4 million per year at least in permit and registration fees. That's always been just simply put back into the general fund. Some of that, or all of it, turned around to support the local food systems, is to support agricultural viability, would be fantastic, especially when we have drops in federal support. It could go a long way. So that was something that we proposed in our budget submission last year. Senator Palmer took up the banner and had a bill in, which was survived until the end of the session, but didn't make it. But certainly I'd love to see something like that happen. And, our approach to that was that we would probably form a committee, get people's advice on how best to use that money if it did happen. Maybe it's more money for LASA, maybe it's supporting the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program, maybe it's bonus bucks, whatever. Be just nice to have some money to work with to support the collective priorities that we share.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We hear you, Fred.
Yeah. Ken, but I have to speak to Terry Gray. Is there any opportunity to do something similar, take that same recourse and do something with seafood, with the dollars that are generated through, licensing permits, et cetera?
Yeah, nice to, I mean, $4 million is something, but it's still a relatively small amount of money. And, you know, taking all the various funds and whatnot that come into DM and use it for a particular dedicated purpose would be great. So sure, Fred.
Okay, so I'll call Terry and speak to him.
Yep, I'll give him a heads up as well.
Okay, and thank Ken, thanks for everything that you do for the state and through DEM and for us as farmers, fishers and all.
I appreciate that, Fred, and we enjoy the relationship a lot.
Yeah.
Do other folks have any questions or comments about the issue of sustainability ideas for the coming year? Ken, that was really, that was some really helpful guidance for us. Thank you very much. Folks have other questions about sustainability or ideas for us to share? Dr. Ritchie, yes.
I might be being premature, but I think I want to just float it out there. You know, most of you, some of you know that I've been working on looking at procurement and how we feed our institutions, and looking at actually thinking about building up infrastructure for value-based purchasing, and then bringing that to places where we can be doing more meal production. And so that has to do with building infrastructure for processing and for farmers and others to be able to increase their produce and then be able to ship it to some processing agency and then shipping it to places and creating places that can prepare meals. So I just think about that and like creating that infrastructure and understanding that infrastructure so that we could do that, which seems like that would be increasing sustainability because it would be promoting our local agriculture to feed ourselves.
That's a really interesting idea. Yeah, it definitely does seem like thinking about the other partners, the other forms of partners that could be brought into this conversation, looking at processors, et cetera, too. Yeah. Thanks. Right. Seeing no other hands at this point, I think I'm going to return the agenda to Allie. If you give me 1 second, I'm going to share my screen again. Oh, Allie, I'm going to turn it to you.
Thanks, Rachel. Okay, so again, if anyone has more thoughts after this, it's a lot of information to absorb. So just if you have questions after the fact, don't be shy about sending those in or even dropping them in the chat while I'm talking. I will not be offended. But I just want to highlight, everyone keeps talking about how to best grow this network is to introduce more people to it. And so these are some ways that I think are easy, share-worthy links, as I'm calling them, that kind of help tell the story of what Rhody Feeding Rhody is. So the first one is just this one pager that is a summary of what happened in our in year one. So I'm going to paste all these links in the chat so you don't have to worry about finding them. But they're also available on the Rhody Feeding Rhody website, which we'll talk about in a minute. There is also this feature from the Wallace Center, which was really amazing, highlighting us as an LFPA recipient. So there's that acronym creeping back into the conversation again. But this is a really interesting way for us to get some attention on a national level, which is very exciting. This program is being recognized that way, and I want everyone on this call to know that. And then a more local level, recently, Nessa submitted an op-ed to the Boston Globe and they published it. And it's been really fantastic to see how all of this has called attention to the program. We've gotten a lot of hits on our social media and our website for this, which I'm happy to share with you all. So just some ways to share with others about what this project is if you aren't sure how to articulate it best yourself, or you're trying to find an angle to interest someone. So I'll paste that. And then Rachel, if you want to go to the next slide.
Sure.
Pasting my links now, bear with me. I should have put those in bullets. Sorry, I'll do that again in a second. But then just a reminder that this is where you join the Alliance, right? So if someone is interested in joining the Alliance, they just have to go to rhodyfeedingrhody.org, and there's a sign-up form. And in addition to people who are involved in the line of industries that we're all involved in, we also are very happy to welcome concerned Rhode Islanders. If there's someone who's a neighbor of yours that's really into this and really wants to make a difference in their community, we welcome them to these conversations, to follow us on social media, of course. But again, it's just about growing the awareness of what's happening here. And I can turn it back to Rachel now. If anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Great. Okay, so thank you all for coming. This has been a great conversation. Really appreciate hearing especially the achievements of the core partners, and as always, Ken's wisdom and insight into the bigger forces at play in all this. So thank you so much. Here we have on this slide is the contact information for the core partners. So please feel free to reach out to them, or again, as Ali said, to us at the Food Policy Council with any questions. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And thank you all for coming. We definitely look forward to reconvening with you all in the new year. And please have wonderful holidays, and we will reconnect again very soon. Thanks so much.